Where was I? I was at the university. I was a first-year student, and I was about 17 or so. And I was playing ping pong in my fraternity house. The fraternity house is like a yard group or so. And somebody walked into the room, and first I have to tell you about who that somebody was. His name was Jim Colby, and he was a few years older than I was, so he was like a junior or a senior at university. And he was famous because he was very right-wing politically. He was supporting Nixon and people even further to the right. And John Kennedy, the president, he was left-wing. So he was very much against Jack Kennedy. And yet it was he that walked in the room while I was playing ping pong, and he had tears streaming down his face. He was just sobbing. And everybody looked up at him and said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "The president has been shot." And I didn't know if I was more surprised to hear that the president had been shot, which was a shock by itself, but to see him crying about it. And I'll never forget the look on his face when this man, who was supposedly an enemy of Kennedy, was crying just like a child at the idea that Kennedy would have been shot. It was quite a surprise to me. After that, we all flocked to the TV. In fact, I wasn't the only one. I think every single American in the country put themselves in front of that TV, and they just stayed there. And the television announcers were all so emotional about it. There was this one famous television announcer who was in charge of the news all the time, and he started to cry on camera and stuff, and it was very emotional. Everybody in the country was so upset about it. And of course, there was nothing else on the television in fact, I'm getting upset just to talk about it. There was nothing on the television except that story about the shot, and then just after Kennedy got shot, the guy who supposedly shot him, Lee Harvey Oswald, he got shot the next day. While he was being escorted from one prison cell to another or something, somebody named Jack Ruby jumped out and shot him. Now, you can imagine the country was going nuts. I mean, there hadn't been a president shot for like 100 years or something, and then to have this, and then his assassin being shot right after each other, it was like we are living in Mars or something. We didn't know what was going on. It's like the country was coming apart at the seams. So we were watching the television every minute of the day. And then after the two shootings came the funeral of Kennedy. And that was, such an emotional thing. They had, I remember at the start of the funeral procession, there was his coffin and everything. But before that, there was a black horse. And there was an empty saddle. And in the stirrups of the saddle were two boots, empty boots placed backwards. And that was to symbolize the missing right of the missing leader.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Oh, glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is...
What happened afterwards? Well, it took a while for all the images from the TV to be over, the shootings and then the funeral. That took, I don't know, maybe a week. And then America had to turn the page. And what we found when that page was turned was that we were in a whole new country. Everything was different. Nothing was the same. And what you found since then is indeed, after Kennedy was shot, then you had Ford. Somebody took a shot at Ford. Somebody took a shot at Reagan. It became normal to shoot at the president. But before that, nobody had ever done that. I mean, it was, as I said, like 100 years before since anybody had done that. It was such a shock to America that we had become this violent society where even the president wasn't immune. It was as if America had lost its innocence.